gonna purchase. That's a name.
You need to really get off my balls, okay? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Also, why was Michelangelo so stinky? Ew.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 329 of the All You Can Hear podcast. I am one of your fiery co-hosts, Wenzel, and joining me today is...
Immortal Colt. I just keep growing back limbs.
Oh, yeah. Damn, that sucks. Because if you haven't read the title or if you don't know, we're going to be talking about the series Fire Punch.
Yippee! This is the first time we're actually reviewing a manga, because this is something that me and Wenzel both are passionate about manga in general and books, but here it's manga time.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do a manga for a while, and we thought, what other perfect series could we not review than Fire Punch? And for those who know that name, you might understand maybe some of the humor here, or for those who don't know that name, then you're about to understand why this is a very wholesome, jolly, very holiday themed manga and episode for you.
Yeah, wholesome chungus. And we totally didn't pick this manga to read because it's short and that it's got snow in it.
It's got snow in it, and we thought since it's going to be wintertime and it's Christmas season, that it fit perfectly. With everything that we're about to talk about. But yeah, we came up with this. I want to say probably in the middle of the year, whenever we found out what episodes to come up for, and then this just kind of came out. We were like, why don't we do a Fire Punch series review in December? And we were like, yeah, let's do that, because it's short and we had the time, and here we are. So we're doing it.
And we love the mangaka. It's fucking Tatsuki Fujimoto.
Yeah, and we'll get to the details about that shortly. But quick thing to announce: so we are actually going to have a giveaway. This is also something we've been planning for a little bit, and it's kind of changed its shape a little bit. But we're finally going to do it. But this is limited to U.S. residents only. It's just that doing international, the shipping that would require to do this would be kind of a lot on us. So we're just limiting it to U.S. residents. In the continental United States, of course. Obviously, Alaska and Hawaii also counts as well. But anyway, between now, when this episode comes out, December 11th and December 30th, the cutoff time being 11:59 Central Standard Time, 11:59 p.m., we are going to give away the entirety of the physical Fire Punch manga, all 8 physical volumes. These were
English.
These are used, but they are donated by AYCH member Pat. Thank you, Pat. And they're in good condition, so they're not like all torn up or anything. Just got to mention that they are previously owned. So what you have to do to be a part of this giveaway is on Instagram. We're gonna have a post like we usually do, where it's just us announcing the episode's released and everything. We always post these on usually on the day the episode releases. If we don't post it, we'll obviously let you know, but this will come out the day the episode releases, and you just have to follow, like, and comment on the post saying what your favorite manga or anime is and why, and then on January 1st, 5 p.m. Central Standard, we will choose a random person and we'll announce that winner.
Yeah, so we said, it's a new year. Let's see who can get lucky and win Fire Punch.
Yeah. But now that that's out of the way, and then we'll mention this again at the very end of the episode as well. But anyway, now to the the background info. So yes, Fire Punch is written by Tatsuki Fujimoto, and the art is done by him, which is what mangaka means. If nobody knows, mangaka means they write the story and do the art. And if you don't know who Fujimoto is, he's most famous for his currently running series Chainsaw Man.
Yes. And the funny thing is, Fire Punch is actually my first series by him, because when I read it, there was only 2 volumes of Chainsaw Man out in English, and I got all of Fire Punch in the mail, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just start here, and then once I'm done with this, I'll start reading Chainsaw Man. So I read all of Fire Punch before I read Chainsaw Man, and I'm kinda surprised that I still read Chainsaw Man. That might be giving a little bit too much away, but some stuff happens.
Wow, that's an insane thing to do. I read Chainsaw Man first, and that was because of Pat. Pat, whenever Chainsaw Man had its first like few chapters out or so, Pat was talking about it pretty highly. He really was enjoying it at the time. We were in
He
an
still hasn't
IHOP.
finished it.
It fucker stuff. Well, it's not finished, but he hasn't caught up.
Yeah.
But we were actually in IHOP when we talked about this too. I remember it. But anyway, yeah, he told me about it and I read it. This is like probably a year or 2 after he had told us this, and this was when I read it too. I binged it like pretty hard, and there was probably only, I want to say, like at the time there was only 4 or 5 chapters left of the first of that first arc, or the first part of the series. So I was yeah, that was my first introduction to Fujimoto, and I remember being so destroyed afterwards. And
He should be like he's only done 2 long series, but Fujimoto is the king of bingeable manga in my opinion, because it's so easy to read like 50 chapters of his, and it feels like you just read for like 2 minutes tops.
okay,
So
yeah.
it flies by.
Yeah, you're actually not one of the, you're actually, that's a shared opinion among almost all of his readers, is that when it comes to his work, it's a roller coaster that moves really fast, and it's kind of meant to be read in like a binge setting, or in like not one sitting necessarily, but like fairly quickly, because that's just how his work moves, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually very good. And yeah, but to go into kind of info about Fujimoto, like Colt said, 2 of his major works in both serializations are Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. Fujimoto was born on October 10th, 1992, or 1993, as it states in his wiki page, in Nikaho Ikeda Prefecture, Japan. He started drawing at an early age. He had no preparatory schools available near his home, so he went to painting classes in which his grandparents attended and practiced oil painting. He graduated in Western painting from Tohoku University of Art and Design in Yamagata Prefecture in 2014. Fujimoto has published many one-shots, with a lot of them having recently been released physically in English in North America, but his first major work in serialization is Fire Punch. Now that his background in painting makes so much sense, because if anybody who is who's familiar with his work, so much of his work emulates or references classical like Western paintings. It's really cool.
Also, he in the manga themselves, like the physical release of the manga, you don't get this when you read it online. At the beginning of every volume, he lies to you, or was it at the end of every volume? Because he will state a random lie, and he'd be like, "Yep, that's true."
Yeah,
like he says something like, "I have family in America," or like, "I'm a lawyer, I go to law school."
Hold on, let me grab one of the volumes, and I'll tell you one of his lies.
Because he's a goofy little cat. He just loves to lie. Not just lie. He is a freak. I will not lie. He pretends to be a kid on Twitter that he tried to float. So he's insane.
Okay, so here's the one from the first volume. Probably his most recognizable one, because you just mentioned it. I practice law in New York, Washington, and other such places. I promise to prove the defendant innocent.
He does not. that he's just doing a bit.
And also too, his image for himself in his manga is of him. I assume him as a kid.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different kid photos of him.
Yeah. Yeah, and keep in mind too, we should mention Fujimoto is a weird fucking dude.
Oh yeah.
There was this is something I completely did not get a chance to go into kind of looking into him, but like if you ever get the chance, there was a Twitter controversy with him. Do you particularly remember this, Colt?
I mean, I know he pretends to be his sister, but
That's it.
he doesn't
That's
have
it.
a sister. It's just him pretending to be a little kid.
That's it. Well, to kind of like give you kind of an idea, like that whole situation is that landed him in a really weird. It's very strange what he was doing with that. Just wanted to state that. And
There's
that
also footage of him trying to fly. It was pretty cool.
yeah.
That's not a bit. If you look up
No,
Fujimoto
no.
trying to levitate, that's a video.
No, that's no, I know. It's just that completely just changed the tone of what I was saying. So there you go. Also, just a heads up, there's a spoilers. We are going to be talking about this series in its entirety and discussing it. And content warning as well, because
yeah.
because now this is stated to be shonen, but it's more of the older teenagers. But even so, there is a lot of very very tough content in this series.
For this series specifically, Fujimoto was trying to do every offensive thing he could. So just think of the worst thing you can think of. It's in it. That is not a bit. If you don't like to hear about this stuff, I wouldn't listen to this or read about it. Because let me tell you, it starts off very strong in a bad way.
Well, I will go ahead and say the content warning just so that if you don't want to go any further, you can stop it right now and you don't have to listen. But the content, then this extends for a lot of the volumes, not towards the later half, but this is pretty much it. Like, I mean, you have obviously gore, bodily harm, suicide, mental illness, PTSD, trauma, rape, pedophilia, bestiality, sexual
Jesus
assault.
Christ.
Yeah, it's all in here, and and the thing is too is that like this is also like while all this stuff is in here, it all is also I don't want to say there's necessarily like obviously it's art, and with what it's trying to it doesn't obviously mean it's fucking weird. Oh yeah, incest. I forgot to mention incest. Sorry. It's obviously gruesome and it's obviously very hard, so that doesn't necessarily make it okay, but it kind of does tie into certain themes that we'll get into at like in as we discuss it, because it does kind of it does deal with these things in a way that connects to kind of the philosophy here that Fujimoto is trying to from what I interpret and from what others what he's trying to bring with this work. But anyway, now we got that out of the way, I would just like to use this quote here that is also, I would say, the cornerstone of this entire series, being that death is the one thing you must never allow in. You may bear all manner of pain and suffering, but always resist death. That's from the first volume.
Yup.
And going back and reading that, I was like, wow, like that really kind of sets everything up. But there's a total number of 8, as I mentioned previously, and there's a total number of 83 chapters. So it's not it's not a super long read either. Like, I mean, you could literally read this all in one sitting. That's not an exaggeration.
I
If you can,
basically did it when I reread it for this episode.
yeah, like I was able to read 4 volumes in my sitting just because of time and stuff. But if I had the time in a day, yeah, I could read it. And obviously if you can stomach everything that happens, then yeah. But okay, so we're gonna go into the first volume. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a summary of each volume, and we're gonna discuss the characters that we get debuted and anything that we want to bring up about each volume. So here's the first volume. And I also should go ahead and be honest too. Some of these, all these, summaries, the first part of them are ripped off straight of the back. Because originally when I was working on this, the data got corrupted, so it didn't save my original work. So I got really I said, fuck it. I'm just going to put the already pre-written summaries on here with added details that I added after these. But anyway, so it starts off with the orphan siblings, Agni and Luna. Like the AYCH who cursed the world, are 2 of the blessed humans who hold special abilities. The AYCH was somebody who is reportedly had the blessing of ice, and so they plunged the earth into an ice age. So that's this is a barren, ice-covered world that our Fire Punch takes place in. However, not all who are blessed are friendly, and after a blessed named Doma attacks Agni and decimates the orphans' village, Agni fights to survive, vowing revenge. Doma has flames that never extinguish until they've consumed their fuel. So what he does is Doma and all these other soldiers come to this village. In this village, Agni and Luna have regenerative abilities, and part of their being in this village is that Agni will have his arm cut off so that basically they can feed the people in the village. Basically, that was also another content warning. Fuck, cannibalism.
I said every single thing, everything you can think of.
I completely forgot about that, cannibalism. So yeah, they basically they do this of their own. Sorry, I say free will. They do this of their own will, of course.
They're not being forced to.
They're not being forced.
They want to help people.
Yeah, these people don't necessarily celebrate or relish the fact that they have to resort to this. They always pay these children thanks and are very respectful and always try to take care of them. This is just something they have to do to survive. So part of this is because Agni, his regenerative ability is so powerful that they just cut his arm because he can grow it back within literally seconds. So they cut off his arm or skin or whatever. Luna's ability isn't as powerful. It takes her a day to grow back her arm. So he always wants to be the one to do it because he wants to care for his sister and he doesn't want to see her in pain. So Doma and many of these other soldiers come to this place and they realize that they're cannibals, and they just, they are, while they're not necessarily good guys, they also see this as kind of they see this as a crime, and they should be basically put to death. So they kill everybody here, including Agni. They set him on fire, and Agni is, because of his regeneration, he's able to eventually able to control the flames and able to not necessarily control them, but he's able to keep them from getting to his face and stop the spread of the flames. And he's able to keep them on his body while at the same time being able to walk upright, to move and stuff. And because of this, also, he's clenching and constantly regenerating. He's actually has given himself a very muscular body. And during this too, 8 years, I think I said this, 8 years has passed, and he goes on his way to find where he believes Doma to be, which is, he mentioned they live in a kingdom called Behemdorg.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we should go ahead and say something about the relationship between Agni and his sister.
Yes, of course. I was waiting for when we got to mention this. So, why don't you go ahead and say it?
So they really like each other, like a lot. The sister likes the brother a lot more than the brother likes the sister, apparently. During the night, they were sleeping in bed. The sister's like, Agni, I want to have your baby. He's like, what? You're my sister. but she's like very like, I love you so much. I just want to have a baby with you. And he's like, what the fuck? Just go to sleep. And then that's when the village gets burned down by Noma the next day.
Yep. So yeah, we got a little bit of incest beforehand. I mean, obviously nothing really happens, but it's just the implication of like this sister loves her brother and is like, it's weird. It's not, it's disgusting. Don't know why you needed it, but okay. Anyway, so now that we got that out of the way, which is not to say that we don't have more shit to get through. So, so on his way to Behemdorg, he encounters a little boy named Sun. He's 8, and he also has a blessing, and that is the power of electricity. He is very dumb, but he's sweet, and he just wants to live. He's been kicked out of his village because the village people are infected, and they don't want him to die and suffer. So,
yeah, and there's the scene with him and Agni. Since he was saved by Agni, he's like, I have a treasure for you. He pulls out a little packet thing of sugar.
Oh
and it
my
just
God.
blows away into the wind. He's like, oh, I guess the wind ate the sugar.
It's all God. It's so it's funny, but it's so sad.
Because he's not mad about it. He's like, he just says the wind ate it.
Yeah, he's just like, oh man. He's just like he really is just like a very like nonchalant little kid. Very sweet. Don't want any loves potatoes. Should mention he loves potatoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he loves that. But eventually Agni, on his way, he kills several different soldiers of Behemdorg. One of them being this guy who's like, who can create iron. It's insane. He kills them easily.
Yeah, we get introduced to him because he's made a cup out of his iron and pissed in it and made a little kid drink it.
Yeah, which like already, I know. Already like through all of this, we are really given the depravity that this world is facing. So that like if you were like me and had read Chainsaw Man before reading this, you're kind of half prepared, but I would say Chainsaw Man is on the lighter side.
Yes.
In a very, very not like, oh God, what's the word? It's not so much lighter, but it's definitely not as like this. But anyway, eventually on his way, he encounters an agent of Behemdorg, another soldier. But I say agent because they're one of the top people. They attack. She attacks him and subdues him, cuts off his head, and her name is Judah, who bears a striking resemblance to his sister. And Judah takes the head of Agni and takes Sun to Behemdorg, where they plan to destroy Agni and make Sun a child sex slave, along with Nanetto, for a blessed man named Jack. Jack wants them to have sex with his dogs.
Yeah. It's a really messed up scene because he just walks in with these dogs and he's like, here are my pets. They're really nice.
I love dogs.
And the kids are like, ooh, doggies. I love dogs. They're so nice. We don't have to eat them. We can just pet them.
Yep. But then he realized their purpose, which is he's like, you have to pleasure these dogs. You have to have sex with them. Which is like, what the fuck? What?
Thanks, Fujimoto. Thanks.
But this backfires because they thought that Sun was a girl, because he needed 2 girls to have sex with these dogs, but Sun is a boy. And so
he needed them. Thanks, Fujimoto. This was so necessary. So thankful that you added this.
So this backfires. Sun and Nanetto try to run away. Sun, being a little boy, gets his this is very crazy imagery, gets his legs cut off by Ivan, who is the brother of Jack. And Jack is his blessing is that he can heal wounds, and he heals Sun's legs. But when they realize that his his blessings of electricity, they basically are going to turn him into a power source for Behemdorg, since his ability is so rare. And Nanetto, they give him to Ivan, who Ivan plans to just basically make her his personal sex slave. Agni is eventually able to confront Doma. He's able to regenerate from his head and fight off a few soldiers, and he confronts Doma, who Doma just continuously tries to burn him down. And Agni reveals that he killed his sister, and Doma, like, trying to realizing what he has done is not the Doma we had seen before. He is ragged, has a beard, is not clean cut or anything. He is I don't want to say a broken man, but he's basically like a very broken, guilty man who pleads with Agni not to kill him because he doesn't want to die. And then we are then shown a mysterious person named Tagada who wants to film Agni and make a movie called Fireman. And that's how that ends.
I don't know how to progress, or I know how to progress. I just don't know what to say about that volume. Really, I enjoyed it up to a point. Like, if they didn't have the incest or the implied bestiality, it would be a way better first volume.
Yeah. I like, it doesn't matter because I've read it. So I read the first volume a couple of years ago when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start Fire Punch. I read it and I was like, holy fuck, this is gonna be a heavy read, huh? And then I never continued after that. And so this is also a way for me to finish Fire Punch and to finish a manga series this year. And rereading this first volume, I still feel the same way. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, don't get me wrong, it's like like the panels and the art, it's really good, and it's really crazy, but it's also really fucking crazy, like a really fucking crazy volume to just start you off with. So yeah.
You're gonna notice a pattern with every single volume is that there's so much unnecessary, terrible things, just totally not needed.
And there is a way, like I've said, there is a certain theme and to what Fujimoto is doing here, and there is a way to do it, I think, without having to have all of this shit. But at the same time, there is a purpose to it. Like I said, I'll talk about it later in the episode. But yeah, so let's go on to volume 2. So did you have a rating you want to give volume 1, or do we just want to?
I was just gonna wait to final plop it out.
Okay, yeah, we can, because we talked about this. This is something we didn't really think about beforehand. Was like, did we want to do ratings for separate volumes or whatever? I personally, I do when I do the ratings for these stuff. I mean, obviously, I put ratings like in Goodreads and stuff for each and individual volume, but I usually try to have an overall rating for the entire series when I do my own reviews for stuff. Just a singular one. So I'm gonna have a singular rating at the very end that I'll tell everybody, but just a heads up. But following the fight with his longtime enemy Doma, Agni is beheaded, and it's decided that his head is to be taken to the sea by train. However, during the journey, a mysterious person, which was revealed at the very end of the last volume, Tagada, appears, and their madness-tainted filming begins. Tagada fights all the soldiers on the train, including Ivan, Simon, and Judah. Simon is just another character, another soldier of Behemdorg, who we got revealed to. He also has regenerative abilities. Did I say Judah has regenerative abilities? I don't think I did. Fuck. Judah has also regenerative abilities, and so does Ivan.
Very common blessing.
It's a very universe. It's very common, but Agni is the only one that we find out really that has it so powerful. Well, I guess he's the one that was able to train it the most since he did it for 8 years. But yeah, and so there's a fight ensues with Togata between all these soldiers and these 3 characters. And on the train too, we have Ivan trying to rape Nanetto right there in front of the other soldiers as well. which is when. But before that can even happen, Tagada gets on the train, and they proceed to kill. Like I said, everyone except for Judah. They kill Ivan and Simon, which is a brutal scene when they kill Simon. It's really cool.
Yeah.
We don't even see it. It literally, it's literally Tagada gets Nanetto to be their cameraman, and when they're doing this, they had already fought Ivan, who they also revealed that Ivan had an artificial spine, because apparently there was super advanced technology also before this. But Tagada just completely rips out Ivan's spine and kills all these soldiers. And then when Simon comes in and tries to fight Tagada, he reveals that he's regenerative, and Tagada's like, we can't have that. That's redundant. Cut the camera, cut, and then it cuts, and then there's just the next panel is literally there's a hole in the fucking train, and there's a bunch of metal spikes going through Simon, and his head's cut off, and Tagada is wounded, but they survived and beat the absolute fucking shit out of Simon. It's insane.
Yeah. Also, just important to give you an idea of who Tagada is. Before they started killing the people, they walked in and on this train where Nanetto is about to be raped and said, all right, go ahead, continue, rape her. I need to have footage of the villains so that the audience knows who to be mad at. So Tagada was cool with letting it happen. Then they would jump in.
Yeah. But the thing is also too, the reason why they didn't it didn't happen was also too, Nanetto said they would do anything for Tagada, and Tagada's like, will you be my cameraman? And they're like, yes. And Tagada was like, okay, and then proceeds to murder all of these soldiers. Not murder, kill, because they're terrible. But yeah, so so Nanetto becomes the cameraman. Tagada also fights Judah, but Tagada is able to cut her head off pretty easily, and then takes her head and kicks it off the train, and also says, kick the baby, which is a direct reference to South Park. So and then when they finally make it to the beach, Tagada is able to get Agni out of his little prison that they have him in, because they have his head cut off, but they wrap him in fireproof cloth, which is a crazy image. And he regenerates and heals, and Tagada reveals that they're actually a 300-year-old regenerative blessed who, after trying to kill themselves, wanted to try and make their own movie. After seeing Agni, because an unknown assailant burnt their home and movie collection to ashes. So Tagada makes a deal with Agni that Agni will be the hero of their film, and Tagada will train and help him to kill Doma and film everything later, or on the way. Later, Tagada breaks into Behemdorg to manipulate the script a little bit by giving enemies for Agni to fight, which are these criminals who are also blessed, Daida, Fugaitai, and Kalu. Daida is able to increase his muscles. Fugaitai is able to manipulate any source of iron within his vision, and then Kalu is able to control the wind so he can fly. Also, they are all mass murdering serial killers, so there's that. And then Tagada also reveals they talk to Judah and they talk to Jack as part of this manipulating the script a little bit, and they also reveal that they know there is no king of Behemdorg and that the ice witch isn't real. They know that literally the earth is just in another ice age, and that the ice witch is just part of a story that they've made up, pretty much. And that's how it ends.
I liked this volume a lot more than the first one. It was a lot more action and less incest and bestiality. And it was just all around a very fun time. Tagada is actually one of my favorite characters in the series because they're just a super interesting person. And this is just a little taste of what's to come with them.
Yeah, because whenever we got the sense that there's not they're not necessary. There's somebody who could have the potential to be like, you know, definitely somebody who's like dark or brutal, but then like to see them like kick ass was really insane. So yeah, that definitely a taste. I also really like Dagata as well. They're also one of my favorite characters in this. But yeah. So volume 3. So basically Tagata trains Agni and gives him an upgrade, which is he gives him fireproof claw. They turn fireproof fireproof cloth into basically clothing that Agni can wear so that he doesn't burn everything out around him, while also giving him a exoskeleton arm to use as
Looks
well.
super sick, like Winter
Super cool.
Soldier in a drippy suit.
Very Winter Soldier. It was very cool. And then after receiving Tagata's upgrade, Agni heads to Behemdorg to exact his revenge on Doma, unaware that Tagata has flipped the script entirely. There, instead of finding Doma, Agni is to be pitted against the worst, most violent bless that Behemdorg has to offer. Which Tagata had also given these criminal blessed upgrades as well. The guy, Daida, who has the muscle blessing, he has a power suit that is insane.
Very beautiful. It's just Fujimoto showing off the different kinds of things he can do, because it's
Yeah.
like a little mecha essentially.
It is, and it doesn't feel like it fits because there's so many hard angles to it, but it's so sick. Like, it's just mecha done in Fujimoto style, pretty much, but very clean as well. Fujimoto has that kind of not sketchy kind of style to his, but it's really good. Like, it does feel kind of painterly in a way. Which is kind of call back to what I said earlier about him having seen painting training. It definitely kind of shows in his lines and inking and drawings. Sorry, I coughed. Yeah, anyway, so while traversing the underground of Behemdorg, Agni comes across the enslaved and the quote firewood unquote, which is basically all of the people that are being used as fuel for the town, which is Sun and other people who are who contribute different things. Like, there are literal people who are firewood. They burn because they're regenerative, or they create heat or energy. Some of them create iron for food, and then Sun being the second only other person who can generate electricity, because the other person is about to die, because they just keep these people chained up, so they cannot move, they can't do anything, and they're very malnourished.
Yep, and they're just naked, shitting and pissing themselves while they're doing all these fuel things.
Yeah, because also the pain, especially for the people who generate electricity, the pain is what causes their blessings to work in overtime. So that's why they have that like that, and that's why they're very tortured and malnourished as well. But they're not done to the point to where they'll die. So it's very terrible. Yeah. So while Agni's under there, he does resolve that he wants to free them and save Sun, and he basically leads like a small little revolution where he's able to free all the slaves and people down there and lead them out, where he does confront the soldiers, Judah, and all of the criminals that they have. So also it is revealed that Judah has purposely been trained to act and lie about the king and the AYCH. And she kind of shows her true face during this, which kind of spreads doubt among the other soldiers and people there with her. But there is a battle between Agni and the criminals, and it's insane. It's super sick. If you want to talk about how you feel about that, because I know that was it's really cool.
Yeah, it's super, super sick, because the fight scenes that happen in here are absolutely phenomenal. It's some of my favorite, 2-page spreads that I've seen him do. Specifically with the mech suit guy punching his ass. right through the city.
Yeah, no, there's really good like panels of in Fujimoto really is the master of doing these really stark and just not shocking, well, shocking too, but also like really just in all like panel 2-page spreads panels. And in this too, it's just insane because after he defeats the guy in the power suit Daida, it's just sitting there burning, and while he's standing there, all the people surrounding him put their hands in the prayer sign and pray to him, thanking him. And it's just a crazy panel. And yeah, and it's just crazy too because like he's just without his regenerative abilities, he is just kind of a regular dude who can regenerate, but he's sitting there like getting crushed and beaten by this guy, but he regenerates so much that he's able to withstand it. And he does a special move that he has set for his arm, which allows his flames to come out, called which the command that he has is Fire Punch, and it is insane. It is so cool. Then he fights the other guy, Fugatai, who can control iron within his field of vision. And it's really cool because he sends him up into the sky, into the atmosphere by stabbing with iron skewers. But Agni is able to fall back down to earth, and he's able to grab Fugatai and burn him pretty much.
And the only way he's able to fall back down to earth is he cuts his own head off
and throws it.
And he regenerates on his way back into orbit. It's insane.
It's insane. Like, and that's also too, like, because you keep seeing these people start praying to him and stuff. And also too, should mention, while Sun is imprisoned with the other firewood, he slowly starts the religion of Agni by talking about him as a god to these other people, and basically giving all these firewood slaves hope. And you really see like, oh shit, like we're having a little religion develop now, or the start of what would of a cult. But anyway, because he is thrown through the city, Doma's flames do catch Behemdork on fire and burn it all down, pretty much. Just completely destroys the city. We are also introduced to a new blessed person named Batman, who came to aid Agni and to help save the slaves. And after the destruction, Judah attempts to kill herself, along with manipulating Agni into dying as well, but is instead decapitated by the Ice Witch. And that is how our third volume ends.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how Fujimoto got DC to agree to put Batman in this.
Yeah.
And he looks nothing like him. It's weird.
He looks nothing like Batman. It's crazy. This Batman too, he's called Batman because he's a bat. He kills the other criminal Kalu because Kalu tries to escape because he can fly. He hits him with a bat, kills him in one hit. And Batman also has a blessing where he's able to look into people's hearts and see their true nature, their true intentions. So that's helpful. We're also introduced to a character. I didn't mention them. They're called Uloi. They are one of Judah's lackeys who they are able to generate flames. They're not necessarily super important, but they do pop up in the next volume. But they're not there for long. I should just mention that. Volume
no one's here for long.
Yeah. So if you don't know Fujimoto, not many characters last really. But for volume 4, Boss, aka Batman, the leader of the Behemdor escapees, finds he's at a disadvantage when fighting the soldiers who continue pursuing them. So Uloi and the soldiers pursue their trucks and stuff on these little snowmobiles. But all that changes though with the sudden appearance of a mysterious spear-wielding girl and a masked man who are willing to lend their aid. Meanwhile, will Agni have to perform that certain act once again for those who revere him? So basically on their way, trying to escape these soldiers, a spear-wielding woman who speaks only English comes to help them and says that there is a place that they can all stay with her 160 family members. And she proceeds to fight while her blessing is that she can control the spear and fly with it and stuff. It's really cool. She's also partially naked. Should mention that.
Yeah, I'm assuming she's like from up north. Anyways, because she's cooler with the snow.
Yeah. She doesn't. She says that she has a fast metabolism, so she's able to handle the cold. Also, too,
That's just Fujimoto having a giggle. That's just him
is.
giggling.
It is, because how many characters does he have with eye patches that are like half naked or naked at some point? Let me tell you, there's another one. If you know who I'm talking about, not in this story. But if anybody who has read a certain chainsaw story, they know. But yeah, and also too, on their way, there's also, you see the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yup, it's covered in snow. So Himdorg is like in Egypt? Question mark. It's in the Middle East.
It's somewhere, because we just know that if they're near the coast, then they would have to be also, they'd have to be in Egypt. But yeah, it shows you too how desolate and how barren the world is because of the ice connecting everything, basically freezing the ocean and stuff. But
yeah,
it
makes sense that they're the last pieces of humanity are in the Middle East, though, considering that's where it was the hottest.
Yeah. Never really thought about that. That's interesting. And they're close to the equator, so yeah, okay. But anyway, so yeah, so they're fighting these people. Uloy jumps on one of the trucks and proves to be kind of a hassle for Batman and this spear lady. But then we get another new character, which is mentioned, a masked man who is in his undies. He's in whitey tighties, but he's muscular and he's like an acrobatus, and he proceeds to make quick work of Uloy and all the soldiers. His ability, his blessing, is that he's able to create and generate iron as well from his body. But it's like more powerful than the guy that we've seen in the first volume. It's really crazy. And he literally just puts his middle finger up to Uloy's head and just stabs right through it. It's insane. It's really cool. Also one of my favorite characters, and he doesn't say anything, but he's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, so they're able to defeat and kill all the soldiers, and they're able to make it back to their little compound. So that act, though, that I mentioned that Agni has to perform again, is that he has to cut off his flesh again to feed all of the people he saved, including the newly added members of the Spear Lady's family, because he also has to maintain a new religion. They have propped them up as a god now.
Yep, and they're just cutting the one side of his face with his brain every single time.
Yep, it's literally Tagada has to keep chopping it and chopping it and chopping it, and it is and that's what they eat. And they're not stupid either. They don't really try to hide it, but since it is a religion they have developed, and lying also seems to be an important aspect of the series, they're basically just lying to themselves, saying that this is part of their religion and part of God's blessing, Agni being that this is something they do. So yeah. Then also too, we go back to the Ice Witch, because the Ice Witch cut off Judah's head and ran away while also stabbing Agni. So we get to see the Ice Witch again, and we get revealed about what they plan to do to Judah, who also too, they're not really the Ice Witch. Their actual name is Sulia. The Ice Witch doesn't exist. There is no Ice Witch. They just adopted that moniker. But reveals too that they look like Judah and Luna as well. They have white hair and blue eyes. But in this case, they have a little piece of a tree growing out of their one of their eyes. And they're also part of this group of really powerful blessed who they all look the same, but they're not around anymore. There was this past generation before the current generation that had actually left the Earth when the Ice Age started, and Sulia reveals that they plan to Yeah, they plan to turn Judah into a giant tree to drain the life force of every living thing on the planet and from all the planets and stars in the universe so that they may warm the world again and start a new generation of humanity so that that generation may be influenced by Sulia into creating a new Star Wars film because the last one ended on a cliffhanger that has been their fuel for living.
That's such a good bit. I feel like that's just something that Fujimoto would do himself because he's such a fucking nerd.
Yeah, that's not. I'm not like this isn't a funny bit we've created or anything. This is literally in the manga. This is the reason why this person is doing what they're doing. This is the insanity that has been placed into this manga. Besides all the other crazy, horrible shit, this is just a random. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this person into a giant fucking tree because I want to see the next Star Wars film.
Also, the next sentence is a crazy sentence.
Is it the craziest sentence?
It's not the craziest, but it's just like, wow.
Okay.
If you didn't know who Batman was, if you thought Batman was that Batman.
So back to Tagada and Agni, we end off the manga with, or the volume with, Batman's blessing revealing that Tagada is actually a trans man.
Yeah, because they break down in front of. Oh, wait, that's the next volume.
That's the next volume. Yeah,
my bad.
But yeah, no. So that's why I've also been I've been careful with how I say or I use pronouns for Tagada. I just say they, because for the most part they are, when this is revealed, we are like, okay, this Tagada is a trans man, and it's like it is very much revealed in the next volume. Like we really get to learn about them, and that is that they are a man trapped in a woman's body, and they want to be a man, but they can't. And it is honestly a very powerful sequence of them talking about how they feel about being a trans man, and seeing somebody like Agni who has no sort of, who is a man who has no sort of doubt about his gender identity, and to be so like muscular and strong and represent so much of masculinity, and Tagada having idolized like male action movie stars and like not getting to be this. It's a really powerful, and like even going as far as saying that like every time like thinking about this, seeing what the things that they can't be, or the hope that they have lost because of the way the world is, it's just they even throw up because they're just so disgusted. It's just, wow, it's crazy. Obviously I'm not trans, and I don't know fully like what it's like to go through that or anything, but I just like I feel like Fujimoto made a very interesting and like very, from what I've read too about like people who have also talked about Tagada, like very real representation of somebody who is trans and going through something so difficult, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So yeah, it's which that like this added a whole nother level of complexity to Tagada, which is like, what the fuck, like. So yeah. And then I think there was something else I was gonna say, but no, that was it. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna go right into volume 5. So after painful words are unleashed and Tagada's secret is finally exposed, the revelations leave Agni shaking. Knowing he must face his destiny, Agni seeks out the man at the root of all of his suffering. So after Tagada painfully reveals her struggle, Tagada tries to explain to Agni, and Agni tries to understand their struggle. Like I said, it's a really good sequence of this, of trying to understand somebody who is trans and what they're going through, even if it is fictional. And I mean, I don't know if how much experience or where this comes from with Fujimoto, but it felt very real. But Agni is especially, he's also not particularly smart as well, but he also doesn't want to lose the only person he has solely sought wisdom and guidance from. He even calls Tagada big sister, but then changes it like I mean shit, like big brother, which Tagada being kind of defeated is just like big sister's fine, which kind of also is really sad. Goes to show that like Agni really cannot understand something like this, which is tough. Um, but Agni, in an attempt to convince Tagada to stay, because Tagada's leaving, they're just so fed up and just like after this, they just can't stay there. They just can't deal with all of this because this was just, I mean, this is shattering. But um, but to convince Tagada to stay, states that he'll finally confront Doma. Agni finds Doma's compound where he is living peacefully with one of his daughters and several children he must take care of. Oh, that looks weird on the dock. I should have. Gonna mess me up. He also reveals that his whole reason for committing the acts that he did, Doma commit all the heinous acts of like setting people on fire and doing everything in the name of their kingdom, quote unquote, was because they had found a movie from a place he had destroyed that was in perfect condition called Flame of Behemdorg, which is the name of the fucking kingdom, the city that they named after, where the hero in this movie uses fire to enact righteous justice. That's literally been Doma's whole motivation for everything, which is also reveals that Doma was the one who destroyed Tagada's house and movie collection, because Tagada is like, that movie was something that I had in my collection. And then Tagada is like, I knew the name sounded familiar, but I didn't realize that it had come from that fucking movie. And then there's a quote I have in here that was really fucking funny. When they're beating the shit out of Doma because they're so pissed. Let me tell you something. That movie is infamous for being a C movie. Your god, because Doma saw the man as a god, your god is the main character in that film, right? Well, that actor was an alcoholic rapist. Get over here. And this is after, whenever they say that, there's like a pause where Doma is so shocked and stuff. And then Tagada looks at Fire Punches or Agni is like, get over here and take your revenge out on him. Fire Punches stupid ass.
Yeah, that was a really good, funny little scene because it just showed how stupid Doma was.
It's so good. But also, too, what was so interesting about this is that during this whole confrontation, even before they were talking about this movie, is Doma was talking to Agni and was talking about how the people from where he's at revere him as a god, right? And they're talking about what they're doing and stuff. And he's talking about, are you feeding them your flesh again? Are you feeding these people your flesh like you did before? And Agni's like, yeah, what's the big deal? And it's like, you can't raise them to be cannibals. And was like, well, why not? It's not too bad. I can keep doing this forever, blah, 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 blah. And Doma's like, no, what the most important thing, because Doma's been kind of hinting at like, no, the most important thing you need to do for these people, for anybody, is to give them a proper education, which is so just, it's really a powerful scene because also in this moment, what is Doma doing? He's fishing. And what is the famous fucking Bible quote, Bible verse of if you fish,
If you teach a man to fish, he'll be fed for life.
Yeah, if you fish, a man will be fed for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll be fed his whole life. Which is what Doma is trying to get at. Is that yes, obviously for the moment or survival or whatever. Like, yeah, you can do that, but that's not what's important. You need to teach these people and the generations coming forward that basically like human dignity and also like sanity of not like, and this is coming from the same guy who committed all this evil and stuff. So that's what also kind of, I don't like Doma. I let me just state that too. Hate the guy. Want to see him fucking die. But
Cancel him. Cancel Doma.
But this adds also complexity to the story and to Doma's character as well. Being that so many years has passed that he has changed, and that also too that he actually provides some good points of like there are important things and rather than seeking destruction. He is now seeking to protect life, which shows a huge just change in value and mentality. So that is important there. But anyway, yeah. So Agni is sort of able to reconcile with Doma, kind of, and they just leave. Togata's pretty pissed, but they kind of reconcile too, because it's just like, well, Agni's the hero and he's gonna do the noble thing, and this is what we're gonna do, and you know what? That's fine. And Togata kind of playfully throws a snowball at Agni, and we get this really cool sequence of Agni walking, and as he's walking, he starts to remember the people who have died. And then he remembers Luna, and then we get an image of Luma telling him that Doma is lying, or he could be acting, and that this is just a trick he's playing on him. And Luna tells Agni that become Fire Punch, and so Agni sets his whole face on fire, and
Really
basically
cool art right there too.
really sick. And it's basically Agni is starting to disassociate, and he enters a fugue state and becomes Fire Punch, which is a persona at this point. So he ends up going back and completely just kills Doma and kills everybody at the compound. Doma was at this compound, and he didn't want to die because he had these kids and people he needed. I said this before, he wanted to take care of. Agni just completely kills everybody there. Like it's brutal. We get this really brutal scene too of Doma being burnt to a crisp as he's screaming at Agni, as Agni's fist is in his chest.
It's pretty sick.
It's pretty sick. Don't get me wrong, terrible, horrible that all these other people died, but I'm actually I don't feel any sympathy for Doma, because also too, those are Doma's fucking flames.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally his fault. And it's just like, and it's like, don't get me wrong, it's like being able to reason with people and being able to redeem yourself, obviously is possible and could be, but at the same time, like, Doma was still part of a horrific society and still committed these evil acts, and simply just wants to run away with them with no sort of with nothing really to offer. Because especially too, when he talks to Agni and telling him that, people need education, he's also talking down to him. And it's like, yeah, sure, Agni is a kid and he doesn't really know what he's doing. But at the same time, it's like, if you're sitting here going to plead for your life or whatever and being like, oh, I need to protect these kids. I need to protect these kids. I need to take care of these kids. If you kill me, you're killing these kids. It's like, well, what the fuck? What about you? Like, what do you mean you're pleading right now? What are you trying to bargain for, you asshole?
He worshipped a movie.
Like, dude. Anyway, so, but after Agni is able to get out of his fugue state, he sees what he has done, and he attempts to kill himself by drowning. But Togata jumps into the water to save him, but dies because their regenerative ability isn't like Agni, so they end up burning up. And in this moment, we get this really cool scene where Togata is in a movie theater that Togata has talked about with Agni, because Agni had asked Togata where people go when they die, and Togata just made up that people go to a movie theater and basically watch a film about their life. So Togata is in this theater because Agni thought he was dying, but Togata pushes him out of the way and sits in his spot. And while in this state of Togata watching themselves die, they try to figure out what to tell Agni, because they're trying to come up with a cool quote or phrase from a movie. And it's a really cool meta moment of like, well, what has been Togata's motivation and fuel for living has been wanting to do this fireman movie. So what do? They quote their own movie. They say live to Agni echoing Luna. and that's how Tagada dies. So Agni carries Tagada back to their compound, to their village, to find everyone freaking dead. Batman, Spear Lady, everybody's dead because Suya had accomplished making Judah into a giant freaking tree and is draining their life force. The only people who didn't die is Sun, Nineto, and the Undies band, because they had left the compound to go do something else. And yeah, so
I will
and
say, if when I read this part where everyone's dead, it felt like I skipped a bunch of chapters. It felt like I missed something because Fujimoto just killed all these people off screen, and they were super interesting characters, and they're just gone. Only
yeah,
person that didn't get killed was the dude with the iron mask of the cool ones that I liked.
yeah. It's so that's Fujimoto though. I mean, you're talking about like setting up this world, this very much interesting lived-in world, and part of their style is to kind of take that a little back, kind of to be jarring, to be kind of subverting what we expect from a shonen, from a story. So that's kind of part of their style. That's you have the same thing in Chainsaw Man. If anybody who has read the manga, or if you've seen the anime, well, get ready.
Yep.
um so yeah, no, I agree. Whenever Suya talks about the whole tree thing and then this happens, I was like, I was so jarred. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? Like, I felt like I missed something because all these characters are dead now, and there's only 3 people who survived. Now, don't get me wrong, these 3 people are important for the later volumes, but it's just like, whoa, what the hell happened? Okay. So here we go, volume 6. So, in order to absorb all life, Judah has been turned into a massive tree by the AYCH. And just as Agni loses his will to live, Judah's sorrowful pleas for death echo in his ear. What will await the world after its destruction and rebirth is complete? So basically, Agni climbs a giant tree, and he's constantly being still attacked and stabbed by this tree, but he is able to make it to the top of the tree and is able to basically try to beat Judah to a pulp, but he's able to free her. In doing so, the tree collapses, and in this process, Agni's flames have been extinguished. His regenerative ability slowed down, and Judah is also freed, but is suffering from amnesia and infantile regression. Yeah, this is also something too about Judah being her tree form, is that she has the power to basically remove blessings as well. So this is why this kind of happens. So in this process, they both wake up naked on a beach, and all this is happening. Agni still remembers who he is. It's just Judah doesn't, and so Judah trying to she asks what her name is or who she is. Agni calls himself Big Brother at this point, brother, and he renames her Luna. So there's that.
Some issues going on with him.
He has a lot of issues. A lot of stuff happens because he also tries to kill Judah while she's still unconscious, but it's just, yeah. So they break into this compound to try to look for clothes. There's this whole scene, this very famous panel of him smiling. If
It's
anybody,
so funny. It's one of my favorite panels, period, just because the face of pure pain and just uncomfortableness. It's so good.
it's literally just nothing but pain and delusion. Like, it's if a panel could summarize, if a piece of art could summarize that, it's this image of Agni smiling. It's funny, but oh my god, is it incredibly sad. And there's this whole just kind of montage of Judah trying on a bunch of different clothes and him being like so cute or whatever, but then they're like, wait a minute, why are there so many clothes here? And that's when they're realizing that they're in this compound that's being used by a group of women who were also Doma's disciples. It's Tina, Leanne, Aya, and Lodo. And yeah. They do not know who Agni is or who Luna / Judah Luna originally was, but eventually in their they are taken in, and eventually, in an attempt to save one of the women, because Agni does reveal that Doma has been killed. Doesn't say that's him, but he states that, like, oh yeah, he was killed by fire punch. Now I'm one of his disciples as well. Kind of blend in with them. And so the two of the women, the twins, Aya and Leno, try to go and see this. And when they come back, Leno's the only one that comes back. Aya has been captured by these refugees from Behemdorg, who have been harassing these women. So Agni, kind of to get into their good graces, basically kind of goes on his own to get back Aya, and to basically also Agni is missing his arm, I should mention, because his regenerative abilities have slowed. But he does it does show, like, kind of like it's still there. It's slowed down. But to reactivate it, what he does is when he goes to attack these men, he takes a torch and basically sets his face on fire, which is what sets him into his fugue state, turning him into Fire Punch. And he's able to attack all these men, kill them. But because he's not in complete control of himself, he also ends up killing Aya, and he brings her back. It is also later revealed that when he comes back, doing all this, they're grateful for him. Tina, realizing how strong he is, she reveals that she is the daughter of Doma, who had been also raped and is pregnant right now. And because Doma is dead, that's her father, was killed by Fire Punch. She's like, I want you to kill Fire Punch. And that's how this chapter or this volume ends.
Yeah, it's a messed up volume. I'll say that. It has the whole reason these men were attacking is because they wanted sex slaves, basically, to rape and have kids with. It's not great.
Yeah, it's this whole ideology that Behemdorg had started because it's something that Fire Punch does really well, and you see this with Agni's religion as well, is religion. And that is that what happens when it goes too far, when it becomes radical, when it becomes fanatical. And Behemdorg was that. They had basically made up a king who they worship as a god, and part of their kind of their treaties or their rights, or they believe that there's right, is that they can use people as firewood, as fuel. And not only that, it was stated in volume 2, I didn't mention this, but one of the men there talked about women and how they view women in Behemdorg, and that is that while they are quote sacred unquote, they are still property, they are still things for them to use, to impregnate, to just do as they please, so that they can make more people and simply pleasure men. And that is literally it. And that's what these Behemdorg refugees still think of women. And that's what they wanted to do with these women, basically, is that their duty, quote unquote, is to basically have sex with them and to make children and to continuously, to restart population. So yeah. But it was an insane panel though. Whenever for him to enter his fugue state, he knows that he has to set his fucking face on fire. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's again really good panels of his face being burned off.
Which is like every time I see that, there is just music just starts playing in my head of eerie screaming. Every time I see it, like I already have my own soundtrack in my head for this. It's so powerful. That's also something too that I think is interesting about Fujimoto and with his with Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch is like it's like music plays kind of a role into this, especially with Chainsaw Man, especially if you watch the anime and stuff, having all these different endings and the song and the intro song. But like it really is like it just seems like already you can attach like a soundtrack to it. It's really cool. It's very interesting. But so yeah, now we're gonna go into volume 7. We're almost there to volume 8, the final one. But so in this volume, with his promise to Tina imprinted on his mind, Agni can only enjoy an inauthentic peace coated thickly with lies. His existence blames, tortures, and undermines him, becoming an affliction worse than the anger, pain, and madness he experiences Fire Punch. So basically, Agni is doing really, really, really bad. He is constantly trying to kill himself. It's really sad. There's literally moments where he'll go out into the woods. He'll say that he's going to get firewood, which he does, but he'll go out into the woods, slit his own throat, and just lie there, hoping to bleed out. But every time he is about to die, the words of Luna, of Tagada telling him to live pop into his mind, and his regeneration just starts back up. It's like an automatic. It's just reflex now. And so and he tries to drown himself. Luna/Judah saves him though, and he sort of has a reason to live, but it's really fascinating because he is so traumatized, so broken, but like he still tries to eat food, even though he states that he can't taste anything because he's been on fire for so long that he's completely lost his ability to taste anything. He lies that whether food is good or not, he can't stomach it. He can't. There's so much he can't do, but he does it anyway. And it's really interesting study of somebody who is just absolutely who is an immortal, but who's also broken. But eventually Agni is able to live a fairly peaceful life with Luna and these women for 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, it's a massive time skip here. So he's like 28.
Yeah, everybody who we knew who had survived who has gotten a little older. We'll get into that. But yeah, also Tina does give birth to crap.
I say Oya.
Oya. And they have Doma's fire blessing. They are able to produce the same flame, and that's important. So then we are also revealed to what has become of Sun, and he leads the cult of Agniism. He is 18 at this point. He's 18, has robotic legs because his legs got cut off, but he got prosthetics. And he is very powerful. He is completely figured out and utilizes his electricity blessing to its maximum, and he has powerful kicks. He annihilates a dude. It's insane.
Yeah, his like action in the manga is so fucking cool. If it was animated, this will never get animated. Never ever getting animated. But if it was, it'd be super cool.
It would be insane. He leads this cult alongside Sulia and Jack, who if you don't remember who Jack was the guy who wanted to do what with Sun and Neneto? What did he want to do?
Doggies.
The dogs. Bestiality. Yep. At least I believe it's Jack. I keep going back to see if that is him, and I'm like,
I think it is.
That is Jack, but they never say his name. I just assume that you assume that you recognize him, but yeah, that's Jack. Yeah, so Sulia and Jack do this to lead this cult with him. They've even made up their own kind of Bible, basically, with clearly Bible verses that have been replaced with like certain phrases and stuff that are, unique to Agni and to Fire Punch and stuff. So it's really fun. But what they do, Sun also knows where Agni is, where Luna/Judah is. He knows that they're in this compound, but he decided to leave them alone, let them live in peace. But ever since Sulia and Jack have come on, and with all of the people who are part of this cult, they want revenge for on Judah for what the lies she had created, the lives she has destroyed because of her lies and what she was doing with Behemdorg. And Sulia wants to obtain Judah as well, so that in order to restart the tree ritual, which is what they have told them about. The tree ritual being that they can warm up the planet. So that's also another kind of motivation for them to get back Judah. Neneto is still alive, of course. At this point, she's like 23 as well. She actually goes to Agni, and we believe this kind of to be something sincere. She goes to Agni to try to convince him beforehand and to warn him about what they're going to do. But this is actually kind of a trick to basically leave them kind of vulnerable, to get them off guard, to make them think that they're going to be coming the next day, when in reality they're coming that night. So that they can take Judah while also not hurting anybody, because they don't want to hurt the women there, but at the same time they're going to do what they have to. And then Agni ends up having sex with Luna/Judah.
Yeah. and the women find out who they really are. I'm laughing because I gotta think like they must have been screaming, like they don't sit outside their door every night for 10 years. No, they had to be making some very loud noises.
Because they are, so we get the panel, they're out of breath. Agni is a muscular dude too. And yeah, so then once they kind of like do because it's fucking weird because Luna slash Judah, Luna slash Judah, she knows that she's not Agni's sister, and that's why she says, she's like, hey, let's start a family. And Agni's like, no, you're my sister, but she's like, I know I'm not your sister. And it's just like, it's so weird. It's like, it's literally like a really bad, like those really bad, porn scenes where it's just like, oh, stepbrother, like,
Yeah.
like I'm just your stepsister, like we're not really related. It's very weird. But yeah, so they do that, and then as they're getting dressed, whatever, the women are outside their door armed, and they're like, they literally are like, you guys, they're
Brothers
like,
and sisters don't do that.
brothers and sisters don't do that, which is also like, okay, Fujimoto, if you're gonna call out incest, why are you gonna have it in so much graphic detail in this too? It's weird. But yeah, so they're like, we know who you are, really. And that's when they are attacked. So the people who want revenge on Judah and the followers of Acne attack them. One of the women does die. Leno is killed, and in this battle, one of Agni's disciples, if you remember, Undies, he's back, and he looks sick. He comes up and cuts off Judah's head and gives it to Neneto, and they have to take it back. And to stop, to hold back Agni, they're like, well, he doesn't have his flames, so just take him on. So Agni slices off his fucking face and goes full fire punch. Undies wraps himself in iron armor, and they proceed to fight. It's really crazy. It's really cool. And after a long drawn out battle, Agni is tired, but he's regenerating, and Undies is tired. And finally, Undies speaks, basically begging Agni to just kill him because he's so fucking tired. And he's about to, but Tina stops him and basically tries to like reason with him and convince him, like, hey, you don't have to do this. Like, we know who you are. We know, like, we know your Agni, we know your fire punch, but we know all the stuff you've been trying to do, the good you've been trying to do, like lying, all this stuff. Like, it's been very, like, basically very sweet, trying to live a normal life, trying to atone for what you've done. There's no reason to do this. Like, just stop killing. Just stop killing. Like, you don't have to do this. And then Agni is kind of like, he's on the brink, but then he what's the word? He relapses, basically. He's just like, no. He basically kind of hits her and is like, I'm fire punch, I'm a monster. And basically does that thing where he tries to put distance to him and these people that he cares about because he doesn't want them to get hurt. He doesn't want to hurt them because he knows the path he wants to take. He knows what he has to do, and this is what he wants to do. So he's like, I'm fire punch. I killed your father, and I've been living with you guys while laughing at you secretly, blah, 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 so making up all these lies. And then her kid, I don't know if they're a son or daughter. Their kid, though, Oya, sets him on fire, basically restarting fire punch. And
yeah, he's like, stop bullying my mommy. And then he just sets him on fire.
Yep. And he's like, and he tells him, like, he's like, don't, thank you. Don't ever use your flames again, though, because they'll never go out. And then he proceeds to go and get Luna slash Judah. Now, also at the very end of this, too, Sun has a conversation with Soya and Jack, and Sun ends up killing Jack and Soya, basically calling them heretics and wanting to take this situation to his own hands. He doesn't want to do the tree ritual. He just wants to execute Judah, and yeah, so that's adds another little facet to this. So what do we think about Volume 7?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I felt like Fujimoto, he was losing me a little bit before with like killing all these cool characters off and whatnot, but I thought if he's gonna add some crazy pacing, he might as well do it a little bit more interesting. I'm not a fan of the weird brother sister thing, but the whole cutting your own face off to go kill and all the just like you said, relapsing and bullying these people just to get them away from him. I thought it was really good. It was the first time, in my opinion, that Agni started to be a little bit more interesting in a long time.
Yeah. Well, Agni, this entire story, he's been, he's dumb. He's not necessarily the best character or whatever, but I think overall though he's been a very fascinating character because of what the aspect of the lies and the disassociativeness and the roles he has had to play. I think is very fascinating for this character study and his psyche. It's just crazy. Oh gosh, what was I going to say else too about Agni? And like you said, the face slicing and what he has to do to enter this unstoppable state is crazy. God, there's something else. Another thought I had about this. Oh well, I think I lost it. I mean, you're not wrong either. Like, because if you're gonna jump to this like crazy ass shit, at least at least you're gonna make it. Fujimoto makes it interesting where it's like, okay, even though we just lost all of this stuff previously, it felt like a huge jump. I mean, it still pays off because we got more stuff to deal with, and we just gotta move. So yeah, it's definitely helps. So now we're on the final volume, volume 8. Here we go. This is it. So Agni's body is once again engulfed in flames, and he burns everyone and everything in his path on his way to Judah. Sun's blind belief explodes into fury as his savior Agni becomes the villain. Will it be an inferno of revenge or a redeeming light finally end this frozen world? So yeah, Agni goes on a warpath to save Luna/Judah and burns all of his followers and eventually confronts Sun, who, as I stated previously, he has killed Sulia and Jack due to his fanaticism, and he actually battles Agni. It's really crazy.
Really, really cool, like flash stepping fourth Hokage from Naruto. He just teleports with his electricity.
Yeah, because he can't touch him. So what he uses his ability to his advantage and is very, very powerful. And his metal legs really help him too, in like giving him more accuracy with his lightning. It's crazy. And through this battle, there's a really crazy scene where he is completely just striking Agni with lightning constantly to the point to where it causes severe brain damage to Agni, where there's different points where he'd be like, where am I? What's happening? What is this? Strikes him again. He's like, son, how'd you get so old? What's going on? And then strikes him again and again. And it's so sad because it's just like, it's like at this point Agni's just gone, like, because Sun does not understand what he is doing, and two, he thinks that Agni, this is like a test by his god, and through this too, Agni, through just a little tiny little piece of Doma's flame, is able to catch Sun's leg on fire, and that's how he dies. It's pretty brutal because it's so sad because Sun is also begging Agni to do something to save him, but Agni, because he's just so lost, is just doesn't even look at him. He's just gone. And so yeah, Luna and Judah, Judah kind of understanding now that she's Judah and what she has done, she stops Agni from further harm and slightly regains her memories, but like I said, at least an understanding of the situation and her powers, and actually kind of frees Agni from his previous body, literally turns his body into a shell and pulls out a younger Agni out of this body, turning him back into basically a boy, and making a deal with Naneto to raise him as he is and to never reveal who he was and to take care of him. And Judah will become a tree again, warming the world, giving a safe and warm world for Agni to grow up in. And during this time, Naneto does raise him and changes his name and names him Sun, after Sun. So yeah, and then Judah becomes a giant tree again, and 80 years pass, and the world is warm. There's flowers, there's fields, there's this giant glowing tree, and there's a movie theater that has been built, but there are no movies to play in. We see Sun / Agni, who is a little older, or I say little, he's young, he's immortal. But Naneto's old, she dies, and
It reminds me a lot of Interstellar.
it does.
Where they're dying.
It did, because she's surrounded by her family and friends. Sun / Agni is he has some role to play in this. He has a subordinate who talks to him about how basically there is humans have discovered new weapons now that can destroy the world, but they discovered a pill before all of this, where if you take it, a person regenerative abilities can finally die. So because Sun / Agni at this point, for some reason, he still wants to kill himself, and he still tries to, but his regenerative abilities don't allow him. But he knows he wants to die for some reason, and he doesn't understand why. Also, he's given a film. They find Togata's camera, and they give him the film, and it's damaged. It's only in black and white, and there's no sound. And he watches it, the only film in the only movie theater, and he doesn't know who the guy is, but he obviously kind of recognizes him, that's him. And as he's watching it, he makes a fist as he sits there. But yeah, and so basically, there's this whole thing of like, there's no, maybe it's a good idea to just kill yourself because there's no hope for this world now, since humans have discovered another way to destroy it. And then we get to cut to Judah, who sits in her tree, still Luna Judah, but she sits in her tree all alone, knowing what she is doing and why she's doing it, because she wants to help Sun / Agni. Then after several centuries passed, she slowly starts to forget. She has a vague idea what she's doing, but she's still she's starting to lose her memory because she's getting so old and immortal, and so much time is passing. So a millennia finally passes. She forgets, but she knows she's still doing this, and her branches have reached out into the stars. They're going to planets. They're sucking the life from other planets and heat, going to worlds, destroying them, suns, just without really thinking, but also knowing that there's some purpose to it. But there is no purpose to it, because she also knows that the world below her has been destroyed. The Earth is gone. It got struck by an asteroid a millennia ago. So it actually had been destroyed, who knows, like thousands or hundreds of years ago, but it's just gone. So then another millennia passes, and the universe is finally dead. The universe is dead, and Judah / Luna is all alone, just floating there. She's in agony because she's just alone, nothing, just immortal. And who floats into her space, into this little area in the tree? It's Sun / Agni. He's there. He floats because he's also immortal. And at some point when the Earth was destroyed, he got thrown out of the atmosphere. So he's been floating around through space. But he finally floated his way to Luna, and they see each other, being the two first humans to see each other in a long time, and they laugh, and they don't know what to say or what to do. And finally they fall asleep, and they both reawaken in a movie theater. And that's how Fire Punch ends.
Yep. And I remember reading on the wiki, like a little quick thing. It says that, and at the end of the movie, it reveals that, at the end of the story, it reveals that everything that just took place was a movie. Which technically, yes, it was a movie, because it's what Togata thought was heaven, was replaying the events of their life. So technically, I guess you could see it either way, that it was a movie, but I see it as they had already died and they're just rewatching the events of their life.
That's my interpretation of that, is that literally whenever they finally see each other, they both, because they're both like not alone now, they fall asleep for real, and that's it. They both die, and they're both in the theater, and they just got done watching their lives, and they both get up and are leaving the theater as well. They're both getting up from their seats and are leaving. So they just got done watching basically the film showing their lives. Yeah, that's how I interpret it. That's how I see a lot of people interpret that. It's just they were watching. They had died and they were watching their movie. So yeah. Also symbolism there too. Sun and Luna finally reuniting. Like
Yes.
the sun and the moon. Like, yeah. Subtle. um so yeah, what do we think?
That's all of Fire Punch right there.
Yeah, that's all of Fire Punch. This is it. Like that's all the insanity that it is. What do we think of it? What do we think of its themes of the subject matter? Is it cohesive? Does it amount to anything? What can we pull from it, Colt? If you want to tell me your thoughts.
Honestly, it's really hard because the way Fujimoto works, and this specifically, it's hard to see what the hell he's trying to tell me, or if he is trying to tell me anything at all, or if he's just wanting to have a giggle and just putting all this random shit in it. Because with Chainsaw Man, I feel like that's way easier to pull stuff from, but here, not so much.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Because I was struggling with that too, and sometimes when you're looking at something, you can be like up close to it, and you think like, damn, like what am I looking for? What is here? Because there is something to pull from this, because Fujimoto is he's a really good storyteller, and he's really good at dealing with certain themes, and he does it well in Chainsaw Man, and he does something here. And sometimes you just have to stay you're too close, and sometimes you have to back up, and the answer's right in front of you. And my take from this is basically that it is kind of an optimistic nihilism, and that is that it's so simple that nothing matters. That's it. Nothing matters. And but from the fact that nothing matters, that you can create meaning, or you can be given fuel to find meaning. And that's what we see here throughout the story, is a lot of different characters with a lot of different motivations, a lot of similar ones, but they all have a fuel to keep them going, to find meaning in this space that is dystopian, distraught, apocalyptic, hopeless, just absolutely awful. But they still find reasons in way of living. You have Togata, who, even though they lost all of their films, even though they're a trans man trapped in a woman's body, they still found a reason, a fuel to go on, and that was to film Fire Punch. You have Suya, who had been around even longer than Togata, who, the reason why they were doing what they were doing, the reason why they wanted to live, was so that they could have another Star Wars film be made. You have characters who literally their whole reason for even going on, to even try to fight, to even try to do anything, was through religion. As touching, as controversial as that can be, they were still able to find some meaning in that. Or you have different stuff in family, or in serving, like some of these characters who think they're serving some kind of calling, some kind of higher thing. And even that, though, that doesn't even matter. But overall, or under it all, it's supposed to be that to basically just to live, to have some kind of fuels for some reason to live. And I think the more kind of positive take on it, or or it's optimistic, is like like wanting to see another movie, or wanting to have another book written, or wanting to do something cool, or experience something awesome, or that was my initial take from it, is that even though that nothing matters, we can make stuff matter. We can still find something or create something, whether we try or not.
I can see that now. Yeah, I can see it. But at the same time, it also feels like Fujimoto was just putting as much as he wanted into this.
Yeah, I mean, sure, like, but like, it's so I say that too because there was a person who I was looking on Reddit to see what people also thought their interpretations of this because I was really curious, and there was this really good one where um so I'll read it. This is kind of abridged, but here it is. So this is a really good interpretation of it, and that is to say, we are the ones to fill the empty space. We cannot change the space itself, but alternatively, when we occupy this space, we give it a reason for it to continue to existing. And like, even though this world is shitty and is terrible, we still give it a reason to be in it, to reason to live in it, to reason to be in it. Like Suya wanting to create a whole nother generation of humans to have another Star Wars film made. They were willing to destroy all the other worlds in the universe just so that this world could stay. We are the characters, and even if we try to delude ourselves with meaninglessness or meaningfulness, we all have a role to play, contributing to this movie or the space, and are responsible for its continued existence. And then they even bring up this is so funny because this works so well with this fucking book. Or this manga is speaking in Freudian terms. This piece shows the extremes of ego and superego, but highlights the importance of the id, the unconscious self, because regardless of what happens, that it is in our very nature to continue living regardless of meaning, and because we will find the meaning even if we have to create that too. So live.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Like, when I read that, I was like, holy fuck, that's such a good take on it. Like, it didn't necessarily change my rating of it, but like, it really, like, I was like, yeah, like, I that is such a good explanation of all of this, because there's constantly, like, literally Tagada and Luna saying for him to live, constantly him seeing and asking, why do I need to live? Why should I live? You know, why do I keep living? Why? He just keeps doing it. It's a reflex. It's just for some reason he wants to live, but he doesn't understand. He just keeps doing it. He keeps finding a reason. He keeps making up personas and roles. He has to be an actor. He has to be a god. He has to be a hero. He has to be a demon. He has to be a brother. He keeps changing and changing. And it's just this whole just slew of different, like, and then you have characters who are concrete in what they are wanting, what their reasons for living or wanting to find meaning in this meaningless world. It's so incredibly just a whole, like, a really good explanation and interpretation of all of this, of Fujimoto's work here. And oh gosh, there was like oh my god, there's something else too. It's just I was like, like, you're talking about a really good encompassing, like, um just a all around good interpretation of this was that, like, I was like, damn, like, good fucking job, dude. And Freudian too is funny because of the incest.
Yeah. 100%.
But now, and that was funny too because, like, we did learn, you know, I took a psychology class in at in college, or the when I was getting my 2-year degree, and that I remember that specifically talking about that, because in this psychology class we talked about meaning and living, and that was one of the that was one of the corners, the big points was Freudian talking about that specifically. So I think that's very like very cool to have that come back, that lesson. But and overall, what do we think of this, like, in terms of, like, if comparing it to, like, Chainsaw Man's art? Like, how do we feel about the art? Like, is it, you know, is it still rough, or is it, like, is it still consistent? You know, how do we feel about that? Is it
I feel
legible?
like it's very consistent. I feel like Fujimoto is never. He's gotten better, yes, but like the quality has always been there for him. Because I feel like he makes sure that in the end, it's gonna look pretty. And I'm thankful for him with that. But even if it's something that's offensive, he will make it look pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and sorry. I now I remember what I was going to say to add on. It was that beginning quote, the quote I said at the top of the episode with, the one thing that you must not do is or you must always resist death. That's also too ever present. Again, obviously with the counter, obviously of living is death. So I just, that's why I say that's the cornerstone of this entire thing is of just living. But yeah, no, Fujimoto, like, um, I mean, I really like his style is so iconic, and I can't really say it's any too different from Chainsaw Man because they're both super clean. Like I know people usually describe it as kind of messy, kind of sketchy a little bit, but like it's like it's so iconic and stylish. Like it's still just it's still it's so
It
it's
just doesn't
cohesive.
feel that sketchy to me.
Yeah, it's just because of the way the lines are. Like there's like it's not a solid line. It's kind of like line over line, kind of like that. It's not really just a singular solid line like you would have in like God, I'm thinking about like My Hero
Yeah, yeah.
or um One Punch Man, with those
Yep, yep.
solid lines. So that's why they say usually sketchy, but it's a different style in my opinion. And I don't say that's a bad thing either, but that's just really
No.
the phrase that people um can use so readily. But yeah, no, it's all cohesive. It's all very easy to follow. It's still fantastic. It's beautiful. Like I mean, you're talking like I've said this so many times with Chainsaw Man. It's like you literally have pieces or panels in here that could like you could frame and just be like works of art in like a gallery.
Yes, 100%. Like, I want a lot of Fujimoto's work just up on the wall because it looks that good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for real. Yeah, I would even take like I can't really say what I'd want from Chainsaw Man because spoilers, but I definitely would want some from Fire Punch. Just really iconic stuff here. Um, Now I should ask too: is this something? You know what? I'll say this for the rating part. So I want to change this. Should there be an adaptation?
No, I really think there shouldn't. Uh, I feel like the answer is obvious, like why there shouldn't be one because of everything that's in it. I don't think the average person wants to watch something that's this depressing. Like it's just easier to take in as a book or manga here because you can easily read it and move on really fast while it would drag on the dog scene for like 5 to 10 minutes.
That's really okay. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that's a fair take. That's really interesting because with how we with our current society and how we have works, like we're always wanting stuff to be adapted, to be to elevate. So that's really interesting to have a take of like no, we shouldn't. I agree. I think it should stay as a manga, not because uh, I think it would be a detriment. Honestly, I think it should stay as a manga because that's how it should be consumed. It shouldn't be adapted, not because it, it couldn't be beautiful or it couldn't be done right. It's just because I think it's just perfect as it is. Um, and that's kind of a charged thing to say is like perfect. I think it's fine as it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be adapted into anything else.
This
And
also kind of goes into scores. I'm not going to say scores. I'm just saying I don't think it's good enough for an adaptation.
oh, okay, okay. Well, that's interesting. So that's interesting. The two that you mentioned about this isn't really for everyone. I mean, so we can say, or you can say that this really isn't a major work for people to read, or is this something people who are getting to Fujimoto, do they need to read it? Is this a manga that must be read? What would you say, Colt?
I would say that if you like Chainsaw Man, the manga, if you are caught up on the manga and you haven't read Fire Punch for some reason, I think you should definitely check out Fire Punch because if you love that art, you'll love this art. And it is more of Fujimoto's crazy shit. And considering he's so young, he's either 30 or 31. We don't know. He doesn't have much backlog when it comes to his work. He's only got the short one shots, Fire Punch, and now Chainsaw Man. So, and plus he's already talking about retiring to just being an author. So, I would say if you're a fan of Fujimoto, you should definitely read it.
Okay.
Because there's not much out there, and it sounds like there might not be that much manga, or at least he can still work with someone if he does decide to just be the writer for manga. You just have someone else draw it.
Yeah, that's tough because his art really is incredible, and you see also too like the influence they have on each other, the mangaka and the industry. Like certain styles and certain ways of storytelling are so they really kind of influence each other. Looking at you, Jujutsu Kaisen, and because I think Akutame and Fujimoto have worked together before.
I feel like I remember seeing that they hung out for dinner or lunch or something.
Well, that and also too, I want to say like they were legit. Like one of them worked under the other as an assistant, and that's kind of like that kind of influence there of like their art and storytelling. I couldn't tell you for sure, but I feel like I've read that somewhere. But they're definitely friends. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think if you're a fan of Fujimoto, you should read it. If it's a major work for everybody, I think uh, uh I guess we should probably go into scores and overall what we really think about and whether we like it or not. So I'll let you go, Colt, into this one. Like, what's your score? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What are your like final overall thoughts?
When I first read this, it was like 2020, 2021. I want to say it's 2021 for sure. I felt the exact same as I felt when I reread it like a month ago, or not even a month ago, like a few weeks ago. It's the exact same feeling of like, fuck, that was good. But man, did it like the thing that hurt it the most for me is itself. A lot of the shit that was going on in there is completely unnecessary in my opinion. But the cool stuff that was there and like the interesting whole of now that you bring up the philosophy stuff with the moving on and trying to find something to stay alive living, it helps it a little bit more. It's just it's hard to say it's good, but at the same time it is good. It is good. It's not anything that's a 10 out of 10. It's not a 9 out of 10. It's not an 8 out of 10. It is a 7 out of 10, in my opinion, only because of the philosophical thing and the art. The art carries a lot here, because if it looked ugly, I don't think I would have finished it or even collected it.
Yeah, no, for sure. If it definitely was ugly, I don't know if we would really be talking about it right now. No, that's a fair take. That's a fair take. It is a lot. And like you've said before, it does feel like Fujimoto is just cramming so much shit into one thing of being like super macho, super just over the top edgy. But so I originally my score I felt a certain way about it, especially with that first volume when I first read it. I was like, okay, this is good so far, but there's some stuff I really don't like, and some stuff too, like when I feel like it's just over the top and just unnecessary and stuff. I really don't like it. I really get a disdain for it. I get disgusted by it. And with this, I was like, man, this stuff is fucked. Like, ugh, goddamn, I don't like it. But with everything, and with my kind of like my vague collection of thoughts of like, okay, with all this depravity, with all this horrific stuff happening, you know, still finding meaning and reason to live is like, okay, well, what do we do in this current world? And is this current world just as fucked up as the one in Fire Punch? Yes, it is. Sure, it's not an ice wasteland, but all the things that are happening in there also are happening in this world now. And while, you know, there is certain there's definitely privileges from being, you know, being in different parts of the world, especially for us being in America and not having to face this depravity, this cruelty, like head on. You know, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't recognize it or understand that it's still out there and still, you know, shy away from it. And it doesn't make it right either. But at the same time, it's like we can still try to find, you know, meaning and a reason to live. Because, you know, we should, everybody, you know, unless you're fucking evil, but like, people should, you know, should be allowed to live and to lead happy and loving lives and peaceful lives and not hurting each other. You know, that should be a thing. And that's where I'm like, okay, I really do. I do understand the concept and the theme and what's happening here is that to live and to be able to reason and to you know to resist death, to find that meaning. And and with that though, there is still all this stuff that feels just so grotesque and so just overabundant in this. So it's really tough, but I think I stick by how I feel about it, being that I do think, like, you know, with the art being as good as it is and Fujimoto being actually a really good writer and having this in here. And this is my interpretation of it too. This is how I view it. You know, this isn't concrete. This isn't exactly what Fujimoto, you know, intends. I mean, Fujimoto could have literally intended nothing. Literally nothing. Could just have wanted to make this shit because he wanted to, or make this insane because he wanted to. Sure. But for the most part, this is what I get from it. And and I think there is some value to it. And I don't think it's for everybody. And if you can't handle it, then just, you know, just avoid it. You don't have to read it. But I think if you can, if you're a fan of Fujimoto, definitely read it. I initially, my score was pretty well, it wasn't low, but it was a little higher than yours, but I think I've bumped it up since. I actually have to give it a 9 out of 10.
What the fuck? All right.
Like don't, and see, that's very weird because, like I've said before, things that are just so over the top, just grotesque, I usually just don't fucking care for if there's no point to it. Like, if I don't find a point to it. But for this, the point is that through this hopelessness to find you know, to live through it, like that's what I get from here, and that's what I appreciate. So I was like, okay, I think I actually really kind of like it. So I
It's
don't
just
like
wild that you had to put all those warnings at the beginning of the episode because of the content that is in the story. 9 out of 10.
I know, but I do think it's just, I think it's well written, and I think it deals well with the interesting philosophy. Yeah, so yeah, that's
Hell yeah.
So but yeah, thank you for listening. That's it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. So to mention again about the giveaway, so again, this is limited to U.S. residents only, but between now and December 11th and December 30th, the cutoff time being 11:59 p.m. Central Standard, we are having a giveaway where you will receive the entirety of the Fire Punch manga, all 8 physical volumes. They are used but are donated by AYCH member Pat. They are in good condition. So on Instagram, follow, like, and comment on our post for this episode. that will release on December 11th. What comment what your favorite manga or anime is and why. And then on January 1st, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll choose a random person and announce the winner. So yeah, definitely take part in that. I just have this pile of Fire Punch that I don't want, and
You already have a pile of Fire Punch.
yeah, but I
So
want
you have
that.
2.
I know, but I have this other pile that I don't need. So
Yeah.
So please take it. So anyway, thank you for listening. You can follow the podcast, All You Can Hear, on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Overcast. Follow us on Twitter at AYCH Podcast. Follow the Backlog Boys Pod. Follow Cage and Greatness. Follow any of the other accounts that we have under our network. Follow us on Blue Sky, aychpodcast.bluesky.com or .social, sorry. B Sky. Instagram, follow us as AYCH Podcast. Follow us on Twitch, All You Can Hear. Follow our YouTube, All You Can Hear, where we have VODs for all of our stuff that we've done. And gosh, is that it? Give us a like, review, rating, give us feedback. We love to hear it. We love to hear back and see what you think. And do you want us to do another manga series as well? Do you want us to do a longer one or a shorter one? We would definitely like to lean to more shorter, see how this does and stuff, and give us time. But yeah, we would definitely like to see what people think.
Yeah, plus, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, we're probably going to do something with manga again in the future, because it's just something that's it's a part of me now. I'm now a book. And I can't help it. I just cannot be out in the rain because then I'll get soggy. Manga good.
Yeah. I'm Wenzel. Again, thank you for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at WenzelBookie. You can follow my art Instagram, my threads, and my Blue Sky, World of Wenzel. Follow my Bookstagram, Wenzel Banters. I'll have a review for this, my own personal review for this as well. For Fire Punch, and then my link tree has links for everything, including my Goodreads and my Letterboxd. So yeah, thank you for listening.
My name is Colt. Follow me on Twitter at ColtD00 and on Blue Sky at ColtD99. I am now turning into a bird.
Yeah. Not next week. The week of Christmas, we'll have our last episode of the year, new episode, December 25th. It's a Monday, episode 330. Let's just, to give you kind of a hint of what it could be, it's going to be a fun special episode. Bah humbug.
Indeed.
Peculiar.
We hope you enjoy that, because we had a lot of fun making it.
Yep. Merry Christmas. And if we don't see you again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, happy holidays, enjoy it. And,
Happy holidays.
Hit some big vapes. Is that what they do? I think that's what they do. Hit the big vape.
Yeah, sure. Don't be Fire Punch, I guess.
No, just don't. How about you just don't do that?
It'd be a really good bit though if there was a Fire Punch who to turn into his Fire Punch, he had to take a big vape. Take a big vape.
Okay.
And he blows a smoke ring out onto his face, and he's just like, ah!
I do like the idea of that. Okay, Fujimoto, make vape punch a
vape
thing
punch.
now.
Make vape punch. We get it. We get royalties though.
Yes. Oh, that's going to be Monkey's Paw. He's going to put some real bad stuff in that.
Oh, don't say that. Damn it. Okay, well, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.